Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to Gnostic Studies, and we'd like to continue our astrology series with the final class of Leo. Technically, we moved into Virgo yesterday, so we're just past the line, but material's still relevant for us in order to understand the sign. So first what we'll do is we'll review the previous class. The handout that you see on the screen is available at the bottom of the page that we've linked there as the previous class in the comments area. So let's jump into it. We've been talking about how the heart is the sun of the organism, and the sun is the planet of Leo. So that implies there's a relationship between the heart and the zodiacal sign of Leo. Prayer is related with the heart. It's related with emotions and speaking with divinity, asking, trying to connect, trying to communicate. In Gnosis, we want to combine meditation and prayer, because after we pray to ask a question or for something, if we know how to be quiet, how to quiet the mind, to be in a state of meditation afterwards, that allows us to receive the answer clear. And that's one of the reasons meditation is so useful. In this class last week that was about, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago now, but in the previous class, it was about, it was from Esoteric Treatise of Hermetic Astrology. It says, the one who learns to intelligently combine prayer with meditation will obtain marvelous, objective results. But it is urgent to comprehend that there are different prayers and that their results are different. There are prayers that are accompanied by petitions, but not all prayers are accompanied by petitions. There are very ancient prayers, which are authentic recapitulations of cosmic events, and we can experience their entire content if we meditate on each word, each phrase, with true conscious devotion. The Lord's Prayer is a magical formula, and he recommends praying the Lord's Prayer. And we have a modified version of it, which is 7 petitions from translated from Spanish. Normally, the practice given with the Lord's Prayer is to be done with an hour, within an hour or a little bit more than an hour. That is, we can pray the Lord's Prayer, meditating on each word, on each phrase, on each of the 7 petitions in it, giving ourselves, 5-10 minutes each one, maybe 12, so that we can get to an hour, a little over an hour doing it. And a long time ago, we did this practice at a retreat with a Gnostic group, Spanish language Gnostic group. And from what I remember, they did some vocalizations first, and then we did a little bit, we would say, Our Father, and then we'd stay quiet, let's say for like 5 minutes or something. And then, Who art in heaven. And then we'd stay quiet for another 5-10 minutes. And we just went through it like that. So that's one of the techniques that he gives, using the Lord's Prayer as a practice, as a meditation practice. But as you guys may have heard, we need to learn to relax the body when we want to do meditation. So when we combine meditation and prayer, we want to bring both of the beneficial aspects, both the meditation aspect and the communication aspect, the asking, the as it's sometimes said, supplicating aspect, and combine them together. Part of what we want to do is understand that many people pray asking God to do their will instead of praying for us to do God's will. So we want to reflect. Are we trying to get the universe to bend to us, or are we trying to connect with the universe so that we can participate, playing our role, the duty assigned to us to maintain the equilibrium and keep it on its path, keep it going where it needs to go? So we need to relax the body. We need to learn to relax the body. And some of the other books that the author wrote, he recommends relaxing the body every day. Every day, going through, we can go through, start in the head, the neck, start at the feet, the ankles, and we move, through the whole body, relaxing everything. He gave another practice with concentration on the pulse. First on the tip of the nose. Once we feel the pulse there, then we move to the ear, to the right ear, then to the right hand, then to the right foot, then to the left foot, then to the left hand, then to the left ear, and then back to the nose again. Feeling the heart pulse separately in each of these organs where we focused the attention. So that's another practice that we can do, another meditation practice, concentration. To do the practice combining meditation with the Lord's Prayer, it's recommended to lie in the 5-pointed star position with the arms and legs open, making a pentagonal star. But if for whatever reason we are not able to do that, then we can lie in the corpse position, which is the heels together, but the toes kind of falling out like a fan, but with the heels together, and the arms are straight along the sides of the body, placed alongside the trunk. We always want to close our eyes because that allows us to not be distracted by the things of the physical world. And then we always want to use drowsiness. We want to combine drowsiness with meditation because it allows us to relax. If we want to do these practices, we also have to remember that there's obstacles we face internally, such as memory, remembering what happened, remembering the result of the practice. We're combining drowsiness, maybe we're falling asleep. We fall completely asleep and we forget that we were meditating, we forget we were praying. We lose the stream, the thread. So there's mantras we can do to help remember our internal experiences. Raum Gaum, that are given in the Dream Yoga and the Astral World series. So we recommend those. There's also the diet, which is acid fruit, almonds, and honey. To have that on an empty stomach in the morning. Those things can help us to remember the dreams, remember the astral experiences, remember what happened when we were doing the practice. So we'll stop with our review there, unless you guys have any questions or comments. Oh, somebody says the pentacle pose in yoga. Okay, so we could call it the 5-pointed star or the pentagonal star position, but I guess it's also called the pentacle pose. All right. So now let's jump into today's class. We are still working with the heart, as we mentioned. This is the supplement. And this material is from the book Esoteric. No, what's it called? Fundamental Notions of Endocrinology and Criminology. It also has other names. Sexology, something like that. But I'll read you the material. Each of the organs that we've covered so far related with the first zodiacal signs, right? We went through Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo now. That's 5. They all correspond to different glands or organs and correspond to the descending energy coming from above, the heavenly energy that's descending through the body. So we pass through the head, and then the throat, and then the upper chest, shoulders, arms, and then the center of the chest, thymus, and then the heart. Now all the other signs after this will be working with the energy coming up and mixing, combining with the energy that descends from above. And that occurs in the center of the chest, related with the heart and the thymus gland. So in the book that we're reading from today, it has these different organs. It gives like an explanation of them esoterically. So let's see what it says esoterically about the heart. The heart is truly a double pump. One side of the heart pumps blood in one direction while the other pumps blood in the opposite direction. These two pumping directions complement and harmonize each other wonderfully. The most interesting thing about the two opposite blood streams pumped by the heart is that they do not collide, but help each other to advance together. The heart is truly the sun, S-U-N, of our organism. The heart is the greatest wonder of creation. Nevertheless, there are eminently cultured and educated people who do not know the physiology of the heart. It is something to admire to see the passage of blood through that swift river of the aorta. This artery is truly a mighty and beautiful river. We're filled with admiration and mystical beauty when contemplating that grand river full of life. This grand river ramifies into minor rivers, small arteries, and then into small creeks that carry life to all parts, to nourish and give life to millions of small microorganisms, cells, genes, etc. All those organisms are triads of matter, energy, and consciousness. All those beings of the infinitely small adore us like a god. The smallest creeks of the blood are the capillary vessels. The cells of the diverse tissues and organs are found inside the weft of the capillary networks. Thus, the cells live from the blood streams pumped by the heart. The cells are composed of molecules, and those are composed of atoms. Each atom is a true universe in miniature. Every atom is a triad of matter, energy, and consciousness. The NOUS atom, which lives in the left ventricle of the heart, governs the atomic intelligences. The aspiring atoms of the heart obey orders of the NOUS atom and transmit them to the engineer atoms that conduct the activity of each organ. So he's saying we have different atoms that perform different functions. The atomic workers of each organ obey orders from the engineer atoms and work according to these orders. There also exists a multitude of indolent atoms that are the causes of diseases. The NOUS atom of the heart works under the direction of the architect atom, and the latter under the orders of the intimus, the inner being. The heart is a shallow muscle about the size of the fist that looks more or less like a pear. The heart contracts, expands, and relaxes incessantly. This is the ebb and flow of the grand ocean of life. Every life has its systole and diastole. Everything ebbs and flows in the infinitely small as well as the infinitely large. As it is above, so it is below. As it is below, so it is above. This is the law of the great life, or the great law of life. In the heart are two wonderful polarities, positive and negative. These are like two hearts incessantly pumping blood in two opposite directions. The two compartments of the heart have two chambers. So each compartment has two chambers for a total of 4 chambers. A superior, so of the two, there's one that's superior and one that's inferior. The superior chambers are the atria, and the inferior chambers are the ventricles. So you can see that here. The ventricles are the lower ones, and the upper ones are the atrium. The secret doctrine recognizes 7 secret chambers in the heart and 7 secret cavities in the brain. There is a right atrium and a right ventricle. There is a left atrium and a left ventricle. The superior chambers from right to left are the atria. The inferior chambers from right to left are the ventricles. Meditating on the lotus of the heart, he's talking about the chakra of the heart, we control the tattva vayu, or the principle of air, and the power over winds and hurricanes is granted unto us. The Hindustani state that the lotus flower of the heart has 12 wonderful petals. The whole intimate functionalism of the heart, its whole vital profoundness, must be sought in the lotus flower of 12 petals, whose subtle stem emanates from the heart temple. The vena cava, full of organic wastes, deposits blood into the heart. The right atrium receives the impure bloodstream and wisely passes it to the right ventricle that is beneath. A few instants later, the right ventricle pumps its blood charged with lymph and waste through its valve to pass it to the interior of the lungs by means of the pulmonary artery. The cosmic intelligences have not neglected anything. It is interesting for the sage to contemplate this whole functionalism. It is wonderful to see the great pulmonary artery divide itself into two smaller arteries, one for each lung. Inside the lungs, the pulmonary arteries ramify also until they become minute capillary vessels. Each drop of blood has to inevitably pass through the capillary vessels of the lungs, where it delivers the excess anhydrous carbon, the anhydrous carbon, and absorbs in exchange the excess oxygen. The rich oxygenated blood penetrates intelligently into the small veins and then to the larger veins. The two great pulmonary arteries deposit their rich blood charged with oxygen into the left atrium of the heart. The blood has exchanged its excess of carbon for oxygen. Now with life renewed from the left atrium, the blood passes to the left ventricle and then through the aorta under the rhythmic impulse of the heart and follows at last into the arteries and sanguineous vessels to complete the circulation. In all this work, we can see the intimate relationship between Vayu, the principle of air, and the heart. Therefore, the Hindustani are not too far off when they associate Vayu, or the principle of air, with the heart. This demonstrates to us the profound physiological cosmic knowledge that the Easterners possess concerning the organ of the heart. Why do the Westerners not want to study the Eastern Yoga? Why do the Westerners want to laugh at what they do not know? It would be easier to study Sivananda, the great yogi. The book entitled Kundalini Yoga is a prodigy of Eastern wisdom. And the author, Samael Veor, recommends a lot of, recommends Sivananda, and he's got a lot of books. Sivananda has a lot of books. Concentration and Meditation is another one. They're really nice. Those who wish to put their body in a jinn state, those who wish to learn to put their physical body, in the fourth dimension, must develop the lotus of the heart. A yogi with their body in a jinn state can fly through the air, walk on water as Jesus Christ did on the Sea of Galilee, or walk through fire without being burned, as many yogis of India do. So here, this is a video. Let me make sure you guys have the link to this page that we're reading from today. I'll drop it into the comments area. There's a video of a guy who they call the fire yogi. I don't know if he's still alive right now, but video is probably from the last 20 years or so. So he was around, and he would like lay in the fire. He couldn't touch anybody else. He worked with a cow, with an elephant. He bathed once a day in a river or a lake. He ate, I think, like 2 bananas or something like that. That was his only diet. And then, he would lay in fire. This is a video about it, the fire yogi. You can check it out on YouTube. Very surprising to see something like this. A yogi with their body in a jinn state can go through rocks, as the disciples of Buddha did. The lotus of the heart develops with meditation and prayer. The Western doctors say that the heart produces 2 sounds, one low-pitched and muted, and the other loud and high-pitched. Lub and dub. Lub-dub. The physiologists assure us that the first sound is pronounced immediately after the contraction of the ventricles, and that the second is due to the closing of the valves that separate the ventricles of the aorta and the pulmonary artery. The Hindustani doctors go further because they have refined their senses. The yogis of India state that in the heart there are 10 mystical sounds. The first is chini, like the sound of that word, like the voice of the Son of Man. The second is chini chini, or chin bini. The third is the sound of the great cosmic bell. The fourth is that of the conch, the internal thundering of the earth. The fifth is that of tantri, the lute, like a flute. The sixth is that of tala, symbols of the gods, like drum cymbals. The seventh is that of enchanted flute. The eighth is that of behari, a big drum. The ninth is that of mridanga, a double drum. And the 10th is that of clouds, thunder, the sound of the 7 thunderers that in the apocalypse repeat the voices of the Eternal One. This is from the Upanishad. If the sounds heard by Western doctors are true, why can the 10 sounds of the Easterners not be also true? If the 2 sounds of the Western doctors have been demonstrated, why should the 10 Eastern sounds not also be demonstrated? Everything is a question of demonstrative scientific procedures. The Westerners have their demonstrative scientific procedures. The Easterners also have their demonstrative scientific procedures. The Easterner concentrates mentally and meditates on the 10 mystical sounds. The Asian mind absorbs itself in the 10 mystical sounds. Hence, the yogi's nisus formativus, or the protoplasmic astral body of the medieval doctors, within which there are the psychic and spiritual principles of the human being, leaves the physical body in ecstasy within the 10 mystical sounds of the heart. This is the samadhi of the Hindustani yogis. Thus, this is how the yogis transport themselves to the most distant worlds of the infinite. Instead of laughing and criticizing these matters that they have neither studied nor experimented with, the Western scientists should study yoga. The Hindustani state that the chakra of the heart, inside the chakra of the heart, there is a hexagonal space of an ineffable black color. The 10 mystical sounds are there. Western minds laugh at all this. If the Western scientists would develop clairvoyance, they would see and stop laughing. Doctors are able to photograph the heartbeat with the instrument called the electrocardiograph. It is wonderful to see how they totally synchronize all the heartbeats, all the chambers, as if there were only 2. This is only possible thanks to a handful of nerves. This handful of nerves, also called the ventricle atrium, automatically synchronize in a wonderful form the 2 atria in a single weak heartbeat contraction, and the 2 ventricles in a single strong heartbeat contraction. If the electrocardiograph is capable of photographing the heartbeats, how much more would he who develops clairvoyance see? A new world opens before the clairvoyant, an infinite world of immeasurable variety. Within the heart is the internal Christ of any human being who comes to the world. He is our real being, meaning truly who and what we are. All right, so we can read more about the NOUS atom in a book called Dayspring of Youth. Remember, he mentioned at the very beginning that there is this NOUS atom. The NOUS atom, which lives in the left ventricle of the heart, governs the atomic intelligences. And the atomic intelligences give orders to the other atoms who carry them out. So, in the book called Dayspring of Youth by Master M or Master Moria, there's a practice given to stimulate the NOUS atom within us. So before we look at that practice, we want to open it up for questions or comments, if you have any, and I'm going to sip some more water. All right, doesn't look like there's any questions or comments at this time, so we'll continue. This is a practice for bringing aspiring atoms to the NOUS atom. When outside of the body, the student must try to remember what they have seen, and this is difficult, for if they try to visualize the entrance of their front door, they will be surprised to know how little they have observed. In our trips out of the body, the visions of the interior planes are more difficult to see than those of the physical, for the finer essences of nature are more subtle. Our methods of reading, especially newspapers, in time impairs our powers to think about what we have read and to remember it with precision. This power to see with one's third eye This power to see with one's third eye is not what is usually called a spiritual gift, and this can be developed in the same way that an athlete can develop their muscles. There are many centers seemingly atrophied from disuse within our bodies. These can be awakened to a normal condition through this yoga practice. We again remind the student that they must use common sense in these things, particularly in their food and sleep. Before beginning your breathing exercises, take a drink of water, for we should remember that the body will take as much water as we will give it. It is often thirsting for it, as otherwise it cannot clear itself of its impurities. We should drink fresh water between meals and keep a pitcher where we can see it. The water we take acts as a filter, and the positive atoms find it easier to communicate when the stomach is clean and full of water. In your breathing, you will quickly notice that you inhale in one side of the nostril at one time, and when you will learn to change the current of your breathing from one side to the other as you wish. There are many different types of atoms to attract and place in their proper position on the membranes. That plate the occultist calls the magnetic field. We attract one kind at a time, and the type we build with mostly are the aspiring atoms. The passage in the nostril are known as the sun and moon passages, and the aspiring atoms enter the right passage. Later, when we try to attract the atoms of the lunar force, we breathe through the left nostril. So now, of course, this reminds us of the practice that Huiracocha gave us a couple weeks ago. He said to just breathe through the right nostril. The reason why Western bodies cannot adopt Eastern yoga methods successfully is because we live in a northern atmosphere and the currents change as they approach the equator. Interesting concept. In the first exercise, sit erect with the chin in and the chest out, hands clasped with the thumbs crossing each other. Right, so interlock the fingers or have however you want to do the fingers, but clasp means that the fingers are touching, right? The hands are together. And then thumbs crossing. The reason being that no observing force of a psychic nature can enter. So this is a way to block ourselves. to protect ourselves. Do this, he says, whenever practicing. Aspire inwardly with the utmost purity of thought, and as you inhale, think of the word aspire. As in, I aspire to be more spiritual, I aspire to be humble. Aspiration. Do this 6 times with the mind centered upon the root of the nose. So what is the root of the nose? That's where between the 2 eyebrows, where the nose meets the forehead, you could say. For behind it lies the magnetic field that collects the aspiring atoms. So, let's go over the practice. The first one. We're going to sit erect, meaning your back should be straight, with chin in and chest out. So tuck your chin just a little bit, and it's going to bring your shoulders back so that your chest comes out. Hands are going to be clasped. However you'd like, you can interlock them if you want, with the thumbs crossing. And then each time we're going to inhale 6 times. And as we inhale, we visualize the center, the root of the nose, the 3rd eye point, and behind it. And as we inhale, we say to ourselves the word aspire. You don't need to say it out loud, but you say it mentally. So let's do that now. We're going to close our eyes, interlock our fingers, cross our thumbs, sit up straight, tuck our chin, bring our shoulders back. This also opens up the chest so that we can breathe better. Then as we inhale, we say aspire, concentrating on the 3rd eye point. Aspire. Mentally, aspire. Aspire. One more time. So with the goal of collecting those aspiring atoms. Next, we repeat the same exercise, holding the breath for an instant while concentrating upon the magnetic field. Then send the atoms collected there down to the NOUS atom in the heart. So now we're going to do the same exercise, breathing in and sending the energy to the root of the nose. Then hold the breath for a moment and send the energy down into the heart. Send those atoms that we've collected down into the heart. So let's try that now. Inhaling, aspire. Hold the breath and send the energy down. The atoms down to the heart. And then exhale. Close the eyes, keep the hands in the same position, tuck the chin, shoulders back slightly. Inhale. Aspire. Hold the breath, send the energy, the atoms down to the heart. Exhale. Inhale again. One more time. Two more times. Last time. He says, by this method, we call upon the nous atom to respond. And the first time it does so, the student may feel a slight pain in the heart. This exercise should be repeated daily at regular times, and in about 2 weeks, one should feel a sensation of heat on the magnetic field. This is a process of building a bridge of communication between the inner and the outer worlds by means of atomic substances. When aspiring, send all your love to the nous atom and its workers, and listen for a response. When this occurs, these atoms rejoice, for as initiates say, there is joy in heaven. For now we begin to journey inwardly and place our feet upon the path of realization. The response will not be in words or sounds, but a thought-emotion that we learn to translate into words. So with practice, we shall in time bring through clear and definite instruction. As we have said elsewhere, our true information comes from within and not from outside. This exercise is all that is needed to deal with the aspiring atom. The nous atom collects them into its atmosphere and distributes them through the bloodstream. A foreign invasion of atoms of a higher vibration that the body normally responds to, and these attune us to that higher wavelength of intelligence we call the Dayspring of youth, which is the title of the guy's book. Whatever you do in your daily life, in your daily work, put your aspiration into it until it becomes a habit. This will bring out your constructive powers. When the workers within your body receive aid and instruction from the more advanced type of atoms, they are immediately stimulated to a greater activity and take on themselves the characteristics of those more developed atoms who inspire them to seek closer union with their innermost, the inner divinity. Hence, the physical body is no longer indolent, but receives a new life and vitality. For the atoms that respond go through a transformation period. You see what he's saying there? The physical body is no longer indolent, but receives a new life and vitality, for the atoms that respond go through a transformation period. The aspiring atoms predominate in the human system and also in the seminal system, right, in the creative energy, and assist in the building up of the procreative elements. If we can converse with these aspiring atoms, we can then send our thoughts into the groups and sections they sure developing. And as we increase their energy by aspiration, breathing, which is the technique that he's talking about, We bring into these sections our more advanced type of aspiring atom, and this gives them happiness, for they gain a period of upliftment, and, as this also increases their energy, our body benefits. This is reflected back into our minds, and for the first time we feel that they respect us. This increase of energy causes the indolent atoms within our secondary system and physical body to respond also. When we vibrate to the intelligence within the silver shield, it sends to the aspiring atoms an added appreciation of their efforts. And from that moment, we feel an individual responsibility for their welfare. After the first steps, we begin to aspire for another kind of atom called the transformation atoms that bring about what we call rebirth. For we are transmuted into another kind of substance. Though before this happens, we have to pass through our inner schools of instructions to which our aspiring atoms have introduced us, and our progress depends upon our quickness in reviewing our past lives. This is a process similar to the embryo in the womb that draws upon its material from its past development. The student will naturally want to know what is meant by school of instruction. We have 6 big centers in the body. Atomic substances similar to star clusters, called in the East the petals of the lotus. In time, these centers will open to us and reveal intelligences that will re-experience us through our past lives. For the student cannot attain any achievement without a knowledge of these inner universities and the forces within the sun and the moon. So let's put the pieces together now of what we studied in the 4 classes related with Leo and as we've mentioned, with the heart. Huiracocha, our first author, said that if we want initiation, we should seek for it in the heart. He recommended doing the practice with the bread and the wine, the bread and the grape juice, because in Gnosis we don't want to use fermented wine. We want to use fresh grape juice, if possible. And he said for us to seek initiation in our heart. Samael and Veyor talked to us about how we need to work with prayer in order to develop our heart. And he talked to us about the heart temple. So if we want to enter into initiation, and initiation is our life itself, it's within ourselves. It's connecting to our inner, as Master Moria says, Master M, our inner universities. Then we have to develop that relationship, and he gives this practice related with the aspiring atoms to do that. To aspire, to say aspire as we inhale, concentrating on the root of the nose, the point between the 2 eyebrows, 6 times, and then we do the same practice, but we add that of holding the breath after we inhale, and then sending those atoms down into the heart. And he says after 2 weeks that we start to feel, we could call it an awakening, or something different. He also reminds us to send our love to the NOUS atom. He says the exercise should be repeated daily at regular times, and in about 2 weeks one should feel a sensation of heat on the magnetic field. This is a process of building a bridge of communication between the inner and the outer worlds by means of atomic substances. So he's talking about building, constructing with our atomic substances, with the human being's atomic substances. This bridge of communication allows us to remember what occurs, what we hear and see in the internal worlds. So that's why we wanted to cover this material and go over this practice with you. The Glorian group, the Glorian.org, they have done a reprint of the book Dayspring of Youth, which is originally was printed, I think, in 1924. And the same author printed another book, The Lord God of Truth Within, I think. Both really good books. So if you want to get them, there's a link to them there on the page. Or at least there's a link to the one. It'll probably show you the link to the other. The practice is pretty simple. We did it earlier. So we invite you to do that practice daily for 2 weeks, see what happens. You know, we can do it in about 3-4 minutes if we relax, concentrate ourselves. Maybe we incorporate it into our life, into our meditation practice at night, or our warm-up or cool-down phase of the day, when we wake up from sleep or when we go to bed. But let's experiment, right? Gnosis is about practicing, learning for ourselves, deciding for ourselves. As Master Samael said there, we should have scientific methods to demonstrate. And that's a method that Master Moria, Master M gives us, so that we can demonstrate to ourselves. We see for ourselves. Sure, it takes a little time, takes a little willpower, a little discipline, but it's worth it for us to develop that connection, because without it, we're unhappy, we're sad, we feel like something's missing. I heard a song today, it said, I have a hole in my heart, right? That's how a lot of people feel. They're missing something. Let's connect to our inner divinity that each one of us has, to the guide, the guru that we have within, who teaches us the steps to take, when to stop, when to turn around. It's worth it. It's worth the effort. But no one else can do it for us. We have to do it for ourselves. And that's where we have to decide, is it more important than something else? And that's up to each one of us. So we want to thank you for listening today, for your comments. If you left any, feel free to leave some. Or if you have any questions, if you want to communicate with us, you can send us an email, gnosticstudies@gmail.com, or through the Facebook. But yeah, that's what we got for today. So we want to thank you for listening, for being here, and want to wish you the best in your esoteric work. Until next time.